The girl who turned my love into leverage. I guess I should start with the moment I knew. Not when I thought something was off, not when the gut feelings kicked in or the lies felt too smooth, but when I knew. It was a Thursday. I was sitting in the kitchen of the apartment Jess and I shared, waiting for her to come back from book club. She never read. I used to joke about it, that she only liked the covers, but now it felt like every missed page was a missed red flag. The clock blinked 10:53 p.m. She was supposed to be back by 9. I called. No answer. Texted. No reply. Nothing. That pit in my stomach, that raw animal instinct, started swirling. But still, I waited. Because I trusted her. Because I was a fucking idiot. At 12:14 a.m., the front door finally opened. She walked in, laughing. Not even with me, and a text on her phone. She didn't look guilty. Didn't even flinch when she saw me sitting at the kitchen table, cold coffee in front of me, phone in my hand like a broken compass. Me. Hey. You okay? Jess. Yeah. Why? No apology. No concern. Just a casual brush off like she hadn't just left me in silence for over 3 hours. Me. You didn't answer your phone. She glanced at it like she was surprised to see 5 missed calls and 7 unread messages. Jess. Oh. Sorry. I was just caught up. We were talking about heavy stuff. That's what she always said. Heavy stuff. It was the umbrella term for everything she didn't want to explain. Mental health, trauma, the state of the world, her complicated feelings, all conveniently unapproachable topics. Me. You could have texted. She rolled her eyes. Jess, I said sorry. Why are you making this a thing? There it was. The shift. I was no longer the boyfriend who was worried. I was the problem. The accuser. The guy who couldn't just chill. I dropped it. Like I always did. That night, she fell asleep on the couch. Said she was too tired to come to bed. I stared at the ceiling until 4 a.m., trying to remember when things started to feel wrong. Maybe it was a month earlier. Or maybe it was 6. It's hard to pinpoint Rod until the whole structure collapses. Let me rewind. I met Jess 2 years ago, during a film festival downtown. She was magnetic, all dark lipstick, sharp eyeliner, and that aggressive kind of intelligence that makes you feel dumb in the best way. I was smitten, hooked before the second drink. She had a voice that could quiet a room, a presence that demanded loyalty, and I gave it. Every ounce. I paid rent when she was between jobs. Stayed up on FaceTime every night when she said she was having panic attacks. Cut off friends she felt unsafe around. Changed how I dressed, how I spoke, even how I argued. All for peace. All for her. I thought it was love. It wasn't. It was control with a smile. But I didn't know that then. Back then, I thought I was lucky. Her Instagram was a curated masterpiece, activism, aesthetics, vulnerability. She had over 90K followers. People adored her. Called her a voice for the unheard. She cried on stories. Talked about healing. Posted poems about survival and rising from the ashes. The same ashes she lit and burned in our apartment. See, Jess had a pattern. She didn't love people. She consumed them. Made them feel chosen. Needed. Worshipped. Then slowly disassembled them into silence and shame. And that was her favorite project. She once told me I was too emotionally available and that it made her feel smothered. A week later, she cried because I didn't compliment her new haircut fast enough. The double binds were constant. The rules shifted by the hour. If I asked too many questions, I was controlling. If I didn't ask enough, I didn't care. She never cheated. Not technically. She just had emotional connections with other energies. Guys she'd meet in yoga, at rallies, in poetry readings. Always framed as sacred. Always deeper than sex. Always just platonic. Except they weren't. One night, she left her laptop open. I didn't mean to snoop. I swear. But the notifications kept pinging. I saw one name pop up over and over. Logan. It was a name I'd heard before. A creative collaborator from her writing group. She talked about his divine masculinity and how he helped her reclaim her voice. I clicked. The messages weren't sexual. Not explicitly. But they were worse. They were intimate. He called her my soul mirror. She called him my storm. They talked about dreams, trauma, the poetry of their bond. She told him things she never told me, fears, desires, resentments. Jess, to Logan, he's sweet but small. He loves me like a puppy. You see me like a goddess. That one broke me. Not the betrayal. The comparison. She didn't just cheat. She measured me. Weighed me against someone else's fantasy and found me lacking. I confronted her. Me, Who the fuck is Logan? She didn't deny. She didn't apologize. She smiled. Jess, you're so reactive. That's what I mean. You think everything's about you. Me, you told him I was a puppy. Jess, I was venting. You don't get to police my emotions. Me, that's not venting. That's contempt. Jess, don't use therapy words on me. She flipped it like always. Made me the abuser, the aggressor, the insecure man who couldn't handle a strong woman. I should have left. God, I should have left. But I didn't. Because abuse isn't always fists or threats. Sometimes it's just 1,000 small moments that convince you you're lucky to be tolerated. I started walking on eggshells. Stopped asking where she was going. Stopped checking in when she was gone for hours. Stopped expressing needs because they became ammo. She'd say, I'm not your mother, or you're so codependent. I became a shell, and she bloomed. Her following grew. She got sponsored by a mental health app. Started doing workshops about boundaries and feminine rage. Wrote essays about emotional labor. I was her emotional labor. Every workshop was built on my silence. Every post was a trophy stolen from my back. She turned me into content, but no one saw. They saw a soft-spoken woman healing, not a manipulative storm feeding off attention and spiritual bypassing. Until one night, it snapped. It wasn't a fight. There were no screams. Just a moment. I was cleaning the kitchen. She was scrolling TikTok. I said something, a joke about a mug she left in the bathroom. She looked up and said, Jess, I don't love you anymore. I don't think I ever did. And then she laughed. Laughed. Like it was just an observation, not a dagger. I froze. She kept scrolling. Didn't even look up. That's when I knew. Knew I was never a partner. Just a mirror she used to love herself harder. I packed my bag that night. One hoodie, one pair of jeans, my toothbrush, and left. I didn't slam the door. Didn't leave a note. Didn't even cry. I just walked out. Because sometimes the only way to survive is to become a ghost before they turn you into one. After I left Jess that night, I didn't go home. Not really. I slept in my car for 3 days, parked behind an abandoned church lot on the east side of town. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my parents. Hell, most of them hadn't heard from me in months because Jess had a way of isolating people I loved. That was part of her genius. She never said, don't talk to them. She just planted seeds. Jess, they don't really get your depth. Jess, I feel like they low-key mock me. It's fine. I'm just sensitive. Jess, you can go, but if you do, I'll probably spiral. Your call. That last one? That was her signature move. Make me choose between her and everyone else. And if I chose her, which I always did, then every other relationship atrophied. So when I left, I had no one. I stared at my phone for hours, thinking maybe she'd call. Maybe she'd realize what she said. Maybe she'd apologize. She didn't. She posted a photo instead. It was a close-up of her face, messy bun, teary eyes, soft lighting. The caption? Sometimes we let go of love not because it wasn't real, but because we grew too big for the box that kept us in crescent moon broken heart. Hashtag healing, hashtag divine feminine, hashtag truth speaks. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. All affirming. All worshipful. Commenter, you're so brave, babe. Commenter, this hits. I feel this. Thank you for being raw. Commenter, let the small men fall away. You're rising. And me? I was in my car, rereading those words while biting my fucking tongue until it bled. She had turned our pain into her performance. And the worst part? No one saw it for what it was. They didn't know she used to scream at me for not aligning the Tupperware by size. That she once called me emotionally repulsive because I cried during an argument. That she withheld affection for days when I forgot to buy oat milk. They didn't know she had a list, a literal list of my flaws, stored in her notes app, which she once read aloud to me during a fight. Jess, I have to read this because you never listen unless I quantify it. Me, you made a list? Jess, it's called accountability. She read it like a grocery list. Too sensitive. Makes everything about himself. Doesn't validate my rage. Weaponizes sadness. Not assertive enough. Tries too hard to be liked. Hasn't read the body keeps the score. Weak backbone. That last one stung. Not just because it was true, but because I thought it was something I was fixing. For her. Everything I ever did was for her. I changed the way I touched. The way I communicated. I journaled. I went to therapy. I learned her language, trauma, triggers, boundaries, somatics, reparenting, shadow work. All of it. But none of it mattered. Because the goalposts kept moving. Because I was never supposed to win. She didn't want healing. She wanted power. A week after I left, she messaged me. Not to check in. Not to apologize. To ask if I could remove the photos of her from my profile because they were no longer aligned with her self-image. No, how are you? No, are you okay? Just a PR request. I didn't respond. I archived the whole account instead. Buried every trace of her like a crime scene. But I couldn't unsee her. Not in my head. Not in my chest. Not in the mirrors where I now only saw lack. See, when you date someone like Jess, you don't just lose love. You lose yourself. Because they teach you that you are only lovable when you are useful. When you are quiet. When you are soft enough not to disturb, but strong enough to absorb. They teach you to bend. Until you forget how to stand. I tried to rebuild. Piece by piece. Rented a small studio. Got a cat. Started going back to the gym. Reached out to friends I hadn't seen in forever. Some welcomed me. Others were colder. I didn't blame them. I disappeared for her. Became someone unrecognizable for her. And then, one afternoon, it happened. I ran into her. At a coffee shop. She was with someone new. Taller. Tatted. Wearing linen pants and a necklace with a fucking crystal. She didn't flinch when she saw me. Just smiled like we were old classmates. Jess, oh wow, hey. You look alive. Alive. Like I was dead before. I said nothing. Just nodded. The guy beside her looked at me like I was a footnote. Jess, this is Kai? He's a breath worker and somatic coach. I looked at him. He extended a limp hand. Kai. Peace, brother. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. But instead, I just said, me. I hope he has a stronger spine than I did. Her face twitched. Just a little. But enough. She hated not having control. I walked away. Didn't look back. But that night, I got a message. From her. Jess, you're still bitter. I hope you heal. Truly. Love shouldn't feel like war. I stared at it for a long time. Typed. Deleted. Typed again. And then I wrote. Me. It wasn't war. It was colonization. You moved in, took what you needed, and burned what you didn't. You don't get to call it healing. You don't get to call it love. I never sent it. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because I finally realized. She never read anything unless it was about her. And I wasn't about her anymore. Not my thoughts. Not my time. Not my story. So I'm telling it here. For me. For anyone who loved someone who made them feel small and called it empowerment. Who gave until they were hollow, only to be blamed for being empty. This is my closure. Not a poem. Not a caption. Not a performance. Just truth. Raw. Ugly. Mine. And maybe that's enough.